Are digital nomads making neighborhoods around the world in remote working and expat hotspots too expensive? This is a very complicated issue because I believe that a lot of us really want to have a good life and want to experience a local flavor. But if everything gets too expensive for locals to live in those neighborhoods, that's going to change fast. Hi, Tal. How's it going? Welcome to
Pretty
Rising
good. How
Nomad.
are you?
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I'm sitting in my new villa in Koh Phangan, so I guess I am the sort of person that they're talking about here. People who come to this island with money. I'm a successful internet entrepreneur, and apparently we're driving the prices out up. And we're going to talk about Koh Phangan in this video, and also Belgrade, Serbia, which is my other base, where yeah, that's a little bit more of a complicated issue, but it can also be tied to remote working because it's actually Russians moving from Russia to continue working online and uninterrupted with the sanctions and stuff like that. So we'll get into that later in the video, but let's talk about Thailand. And Tal, you've been coming to Thailand for many years. You're currently in Chiang Mai, and what do you have to say about how this sort of place has changed the prices and all that sort of stuff since the last time you were there? And what has it done to the vibe?
Yeah, so I am familiar with Koh Phangan from much before COVID, where prices were relatively stable, let's say. During COVID, prices dipped quite a bit because, the same supply is there, but the demand has lowered. And now, since Thailand reopened, since COVID finished, since people were locked at home for 2 years,
Since
it
COVID made it remote working a normal thing around the world, let's not forget that.
Yeah, it is almost hard to believe the prices. So, disclaimer, I have not been to Koh Phangan since Thailand has reopened. However, I'm part of many Facebook
Yeah,
groups and
you were
many of
here
my friends
earlier
are
this year,
there.
though, I remember, so that
Yeah,
counts.
before they fully reopened. Yeah, yeah. But when I was here earlier, I think prices were more normal than they are now.
Yeah.
And now it's just insanity.
If
And
you want an
I think,
entire place for yourself on Airbnb today, the cheapest you can find is 764 a month in British pounds. 764 gets you the most sort of basic AC bungalow without much sort of like luxury at all. It's just this is the basic thing. How much was this before? 10,000 baht or something like that?
probably even less, like
Yeah.
7,000, 8,000 baht,
Which is how
which
much? Like
is
a third of the
200
price, a quarter
pounds.
of the price,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're in British pounds today. Actually, let's change it over. Never mind. We'll just keep leaving pounds. Use a calculator, folks. Currency converter if you wanna. We'll keep it in pounds. And but yeah, I mean this would have been like 250 to maybe on Airbnb it would have been like 400 pounds before for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the month of March, still high season. Let's see if anything opens up if we go into May and after high season is over. Let's see. Nope, same prices. So these prices, okay, so you have something over here for 614,
Yeah,
which
deep
is
in the
again
jungle.
like all of this basic sort of like accommodation that I guess seasoned backpackers like you and I wouldn't really mind it, but some people might not want that. And yeah. So let's see what you get for 500 here. Another little bungalow. Yeah, so basically my theory is that everybody who loved this place before COVID they really wanted to come back here because they realized that this was one of the special places on this planet where you could actually like have a great life. It's safe. It's, you're close to nature, but there's still lots of interesting vibes and communities and restaurants that you can check out and lots of just awesome stuff and a really sincere expat community, I would say. And without a lot of the sort of noise that you get in places like, let's say, Mexico that are so close to places like, North America and, in places like Spain that are so close to like Northern Europe. You don't have that noise of travel here. You just have like people who found out over this place and they come and love it. All those people now want to come back because they were locked out of this country by a, debatable government policy for like, 2.5 years, 3 years, and now they want to come back and bless them. But they're driving the prices up. So what's the solution?
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I came back as soon as I could at the end of 2021. Like it was just like I was in Mexico for 2 months before that. It wasn't the thing as much as this was the thing. So I just came here and started setting up here. So yeah, I remember when I was in my 20s and stuff like that, all my friends were like finding like cheap new neighborhoods in Toronto, like Parkdale was a big one in my early 20s, that became gentrified. And then it became the east end of Toronto. Then I moved to Eastern Europe. I thought I was like the super innovative person who was thinking about remote working in Eastern Europe from the time of like 2008, stuff like that. And I went to Belgrade, and it was a very cheap and cool place. We'll get to Belgrade, but I mean, it's like moving to Southeast Asia is now somehow. I guess there's 10 times as many people interested in this than there were like 5 years ago. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because not only are those people that have been locked out of the country telling their friends back at
Oh
home,
yeah.
oh, this place is amazing, et cetera, et cetera. Also, now the whole working environment completely reshaped what's possible and what isn't. So there's a whole new generation of people that are now either fully remote or can be remote for extended periods of time. And they have access to this lifestyle that wasn't as accessible before COVID.
Yeah.
So not only are all the people coming back, there's also a lot of new people that are now able to live this lifestyle. And a lot of people are like you and I, they like places like Eastern Europe, like Southeast Asia, regions in the world that are less developed and cheaper. But along with our interests of, like the culture and how cheap it is, we're also bringing money. We're
Yeah.
bringing,
Because we
um,
also want the best of the West that we left, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we're not
And
gonna
then
give that up.
that's
Yeah.
and that's driving the prices up, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
also
so
changing places, gentrifying them as well.
on the more upscale end, I'm looking right now at this one which is can you guess the price of this? Two-room bungalow.
I mean, before COVID, I'd pay maybe £500. Now 1,100 is a guess, which is also like crazy expensive.
For the month of March, this is 2,114
Oh
pounds.
my goodness.
You're not even close to the beach. Your kitchen
You
looks
can
like
get a
that.
cheaper
Your kitchen
place
looks like
in
that. Yeah.
most of Western Europe.
Okay, let's see what you get for Hong Kong 1364. Yeah, it's the same level of like not even any sort of luxury. It's like a one room, like normal bungalow for 1,300 pounds. And like,
Oh,
yeah, I
so
don't
I don't
know.
know if this is true or not, but the rumor spreading around the island is that a lot of people have come before high season, rented out places at the normal prices from the Thai landlords, and
Yep.
then are subletting it at these prices. So there is a possibility that some of these places, maybe not on Airbnb, but available on Facebook, are
Yeah,
actually sublet from the people who rented it for, let's say, a year.
that's true. That's kind of like those digital nomads who became digital nomads by selling courses that teach people how to be a digital nomad by teaching people how to be a digital nomad. It's the sort of like parasitic
Yeah.
ecosystem or the pyramid of digital nomadism once again. I mean, good for them. Yeah, if they're that enterprising. Hey, this one's kind of nice. I mean, I like it. What
It's
was
not
the
bad.
price again? Yeah.
I think
What was the
1,400.
Yeah. No. It's 2,500 a
Oh,
month.
okay.
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 Oh.
Never mind.
Oh man. Yeah. So basically it's out of control. So how is this going to change this place? It means that a lot of people like it's the same thing as this gentrification I was talking about, like in places like East and Toronto and East London and all this sort of stuff. Where you're just gonna get yeah, people like I like to think of myself as a cool person, but I've worked my ass off to make a business and have money to be in places like this. I have no problem with wealth, rich people, or anything like that. But I do have a problem with places that don't have authentic sort of grit and local life happening. And yeah, this like people are being priced out of this. And so I think it will inevitably lose some of the cool of this place. What do you think?
So, two questions come up in my mind. One is if this is temporary or if this is, the new prices that we can expect going forward, whether it's just like high season, these few months are expensive. And the second question that comes to my mind is how this differs from a place like Belgrade, for example, where the locals and the Russians and the tourists are all looking at the same places, whether it's Airbnb or the same long-term websites, where the price is the price, regardless of if you're a local or a foreigner or Russian, etc., versus a place like Pangan, where I'm sure that there's a whole hidden either website or a peer-to-peer community of people who are offering places for Thai people for rent, which is probably
Of
more normal.
Yeah, of course. But do you know what those type places look like? Do you know what sort of conditions they're used to living in? Have you stayed in
Sure,
those
but
sorts
we're
of
talking
places?
about no, but I'm talking more about like keeping the local life. Let's say there's a Thai person that wants to move to the island for work or for, other reasons. In Belgrade, for example, a Serb from the countryside can no longer come to Belgrade because the prices are insanely
No, 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 no.
unaffordable.
I've heard
In
accounts in Belgrade that local people are still getting local prices, in a lot of cases. That it still
Okay,
is possible if you know someone. You might be in the burbs, but most people from outside of Belgrade who moved to Belgrade do live in the suburbs initially because of the cost.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to Belgrade in a second, but I wanted to say, is it temporary? And I would say it's not temporary because I'm hearing about this. Okay, so years ago, 5 years ago, or something like that, you start to hear about Airbnbs in places like San Francisco, New York, Toronto, you name it. Our pricing, our like landlords are just doing that because why take 1,000 a month when you can take 100 a night? Like simple,
sure,
simple
sure. Yeah.
economics or something like that. And now with this digital nomad movement, you're hearing about places like Lisbon having the same thing happen to it. You're hearing about lots of different places like this. I just keep on hearing it again and again. And okay, so with Koh Phangan, the government closure might have an effect, but this is a very small place and it has a very um, high reputation that punches above its actual population, right? Punches
Yeah.
above the amount of availability. And so I don't think it's going to go away because if you research Thailand, you're going to eventually come over. At the first time I came to Thailand in 2017, I came here. It was different than it is now. But I came here because I did my research and this was an interesting place to come. It wasn't Samui, it wasn't Phuket, it was this place because I'm a person who does research on stuff and I found this place back then. And if you keep on doing research, you're going to find videos from people like us that tell you or whoever you are as a viewer, you're gonna find out that a lot of Thailand is disgusting. The type of tourism is lowest common denominator, filthy, filthy tourism that you want nothing to be a part of. And that there's two places, Chiang Mai and Koh Phangan, that are actually wonderful places that don't really suffer from that infestation of bad tourism. You'll find that. And then you'll come and see this. And so, of all the millions of people in Thailand, this is a choice destination that everybody wants to come if they do their research. So, I don't think
That's
it's
true,
temporary.
but I think a very big difference between, let's say, Lisbon and Koh Phangan is that in Lisbon, it's easy to go there, especially if you're European. You're probably going to get a 12-month or 24-month contract. You're probably going to spend 12 months a year there, while Koh Phangan is very seasonal. Like all the people that are talking about it say avoid the rainy season, come here during this time. And so I think there, plus, to come to a place like Koh Phangan to stay long term, you're going to have to leave the country, do visa runs, or have enough money
Mm,
for one of the
mm.
smart visas. So I think that it shouldn't be compared to Lisbon when it comes to 12 months a year occupancy rates.
Yeah.
Because at some point, Koh Phangan is not the best place to be. And even if you plan to spend 12 months a year there, you need to have the right visa for that. You need to have the ability to do that. And that's a very small subset of the population that even can spend 12 months a year if they wanted to. And some of them might not want to.
Yeah. Okay. So that's fair. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I do agree with the high season. It will definitely go down like from April and stuff like that. But will every
I
be
think every
year?
high season from now will be insane.
Yeah.
Question is, what is the rainy season going to be like? What is the low season going to be like? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, well, I came here during rainy season in October, and I basically just saw what was coming because I saw that Thailand had opened up. The COVID thing was pretty much over as far as this island was concerned in getting here, and I just decided to buy property instead of trying to rent stuff because it was just so much more seemed like so much more of a long game, whereas everybody was just trying to get in back in here and play the short game. So we'll see how that works out. I'll cover that stuff in another video. Now let's
Yep.
go on to Belgrade. I think we've talked about Phangan a little bit, and we need to go on to Belgrade, Serbia, because this is big since February when the war between Russia and Ukraine started. Lots of Russian people are moving there, and it's normal. IT people working online, usually for Western companies who want to have a normal life, receive money through the Swift banking system and stuff like that. They were once the sanctions kicked in, and especially even after that, when the military
Mobilization.
mobilization, yeah, kicked in. They were going anywhere they could. And this is Georgia, Armenia, Turkey, and Serbia are places that they did not need a visa. So instantly in Belgrade, the prices for Airbnbs just went up and super in demand. And the thing is, if you or I were in this exact situation, we would have done the same thing, right? You would
Oh
have
yeah,
wanted to get out of
absolutely.
Russia if you're like,
Oh,
I,
I'd be one of the first,
yeah,
first
yeah, I
wave.
would have I would have been out of there before February 24th, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but like, yeah, it comes to the point where I don't know, how much were you paying before for a month in Airbnb in Belgrade?
Oh, the same place would be, let's say, from 400 to now 1,000, or maybe 800.
Yeah,
So
so
double,
let's
easily
say
double.
let's say we're booking now for May in Belgrade, and
Oh
just want to check out
man.
what's available. Yeah, May is one of the best months there, so there's nothing. Well, what's under 1,000? Cute and cozy apartment. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's not very cute.
So is that your bed? Wait a second. I don't see a bed.
Neither do I. I think that might be your bed for
I
a
think that,
thousand pounds. What is that, like
wow.
$1,300?
Yeah. Um, US dollars. Yep, 233. One. Yeah. Well, they put a little elephant family in there, but they didn't put a bed. Wow. Okay. So that's what you get for 1,000 these days. Wow. What else? Flat in Belgrade. Okay. This one has a bed, but not much else. Um, yeah. And you were getting these like 3 years ago when you started coming to
Yeah,
Belgrade,
this
four
would be
years.
400, 450
Yeah, man.
maximum
Yeah.
dollars.
Whoa. So essentially, prices have tripled in Belgrade.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Belgrade used to be such a cheap and cool city, and now it's getting less cheap and arguably less cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
again, I would say that for me, Belgrade is seasonal because I hate winter. I
Mm.
want to be there from like May until October. That's when I want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
I feel the same way, yeah. But not only has rent gone up, also food has gone, everything has gone up. Nothing as much as rent has,
about
but it
50%,
really,
I think the other stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it really is changing the landscape of Belgrade. A lot of my digital nomad friends are now looking elsewhere, because Belgrade is too expensive. And the weird thing is that even if they can afford to pay £1,000 a month, it's just hard to, it's a bad feeling knowing that 2 years ago you got the same thing for, like, a quarter of the price or a third of the price.
Yeah,
And you still could get places like that in Bulgaria, in Bosnia, in North Macedonia, in Albania. So this is not necessarily affecting the whole region. It's affecting mostly Serbia and especially Belgrade.
yeah,
And so it is making people move out, that used to go there every single year, but it's also making a new generation, or like a new type of person, come in,
yeah,
which is not just Russians. It's also other tourists that kind of, are discovering for the first time, maybe have heard of it from, other places. So I think these prices are really shifting the backpacker, couch surfing, and digital nomad landscape of Belgrade. And to be honest, it used to be way cheaper than Western Europe. Now, some of my friends are saying that you can get a flat in Vienna that's cheaper than something similar in the center of Belgrade. You can get a flat in Berlin that's similarly priced to Belgrade. So the appeal of Western Europeans coming to Belgrade to not only have this amazing warm Balkan lifestyle, but also save some money is now one pro that has been stripped off, which is
Yeah,
the, cheap part, affordability part. And so,
yeah,
yeah, I think it's absolutely going to change the landscape of Belgrade,
yeah.
especially our circles in Belgrade.
Yeah, it's been happening for years. They're trying to make it into like some sort of like luxurious destination. But I feel like, yeah, there's an aspect of the culture that lends itself to a certain sort of elegance and stuff like that. But it's mostly makeup on a very
Oh,
gritty,
absolutely.
gritty society where there's some serious issues with poverty, especially among the elderly citizens and, people who work quote unquote normal jobs for 40,000 dinars a month or 50,000 dinars a month. The normal people who are working in the shops and stuff, that's what they make, which is
Yeah,
about
which is about
350 to,
350,
yeah, let's say
370
between
dollars.
350 and $500 or euros. That's what they make there. And so how could they afford to live this way? How could they and stuff like this? And it's one of those brutal capitalist situations where I don't really know what the solution to this problem is. I really don't. I really don't know what the solution to this problem
A
is.
revolution. No, I'm kidding. I don't know either.
Well, there could be a revolution of the way that housing is allocated, and yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's just such a weird sort of issue that's not new in the West. As I said, with gentrification of neighborhoods in major metropolitan cities, this has been happening for years and years and years. Um, will
But it's
it?
new to Belgrade, I think, to
Yeah, it's totally new.
this region. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty new because like I remember like yeah, it there was just such a grittiness to Belgrade maybe 10 years ago where like yeah, it was completely different. Like 100 square meter 3 bedroom apartment was 500 euros, right?
Yeah.
4 bedrooms actually. Yeah, I think it was 4 bedrooms, but yeah,
Also,
500 euros. Yeah.
places that were, let's say, Savamala, which, for people that don't know Belgrade, it's a place that used to be really grimy, really gritty, had really cool underground culture, a lot of cool bars. That became cool. People liked it. However, now with gentrification, it's becoming cocktail bars. It's becoming like big nightclubs. It's really changing the landscape of these really cool places that people used to love.
Yeah, and what we mean by cool, I suppose we need to define that. Yeah, I mean, I find most of those places tacky, super tacky. And the reason I find it tacky is because people are more, when they're going there, they're more concerned about status and whatever they perceive as luxury or showing off or something like that, than they are with actual quality of stuff. Like they're
Yeah, yeah, I meant it was cool before. These new places are not cool.
exactly
They're,
so,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like, and what is cool? Cool is actual inspired artists making a scene, making a community of stuff, making events happening, trying things out. A community of that includes eclectic types of music, eclectic types of food and stuff like that. And then what always happens is there follows this sort of money that arrives there, and these people are not cool. They wouldn't know cool if it fucking slapped them in the face. They just
Yeah.
know like, hey, I got a Rolex, I drive a Lamborghini, look at my suit, it costs this much money, and they go into these neighborhoods because they know that there's something cool that they know they need to be a part of something cool. So yeah, basically, yeah, hang on, the guy is here for the air conditioner. 1 second. Okay, we're back. So yeah, basically, you know, these rich people know that they need cool. They want to experience arts and culture and cool, but they just don't understand what actually makes that sort of thing thrive. And it's not people who focus mostly on money in their life and then want to like impress other people by going to cool places. But that seems to be what dominates. And there always has been. Since I started going to Belgrade in the year 2006, there always was that sort of those sorts of people there.
Yeah.
There always were those sorts of people who wanted to flash. Well, that whole quote unquote Silicon Valley, which was named after the fake breasts and stuff like that. And there always were those sorts of people. They've just gotten richer and greater in number. They've hustled. They've made more money, and now they're sort of like basically like, you know, taking over more neighborhoods. It looks a little bit different. You can differentiate between the sort of low-level Balkan businessmen and the sort of like corporate people and IT people like us, and a lot of us IT people are cool. Some of them are not, and stuff like that. But what it comes down to is that money is squeezing out a lot of culture in Belgrade, and it's not as cool as it once was. So
Yeah, it reminds me of the story of Kensington Market, which is exactly the same copy paste of what we said. It was very cool, very ethnic, a lot of
yeah,
different mixtures of ethnicities. Became on all the tourist maps. A lot of people started to go there, especially tourists and people that want to see the city, drove up the prices, and now it's gentrified.
yeah.
And a lot of those places that made it cool initially can no longer afford their rents
But
in that
we are the
area.
gentry. We are, how can we are these people. We are the people who make multi multiples of the of this sort of like local wages. We are the people who will pay double a local price, triple a local price to stay in an Airbnb short term. We are the people who are bringing, like hiring locals and upping their salaries as well. We are all of those sorts of people, and so the responsibility falls on us somehow to, I don't know, find some way to keep it cool, find some way to keep it inclusive, find some way to make sure that this digital nomad movement does not just destroy culture after culture, because it's different if it happens in your own country in Canada or whatever, and just displacing where everybody has the opportunity and stuff like that. But it's a lot different when you come speaking a different language into a country, then you come not having to integrate into the culture with money driving out the locals. That's much different than it happening in one country with one sort of like dominant language and culture. So how do we take
Yeah.
responsibility for this? I don't know. That's like, I really don't know.
I mean, personally, you could support more local businesses. You could try
I do.
to, um, yeah, but that still has a limited amount of difference that it could make. To be honest, I think that what's needed is good government policy that can make everybody richer. And you see some countries, like let's say China, China, the population there got 10 times richer in the last 10 years, let's say. Thai people, I don't think they got 10 times richer in the last
Uh,
10 years. So I think, sure, like China's also getting a bunch of investment. I mean, it's very different. It's not so much nomads export, etc. But I think it's not our responsibility to make all of the, locals in a country richer. That's the government's responsibility to think of policies that can bring their people out of poverty,
yeah,
potential.
yeah, I don't know. Government can't really solve those problems. I mean, like poverty tends to be, those are issues that take generations to solve in a lot of cases. There's very few examples of countries that just like turn it around and become super wealthy. I mean, Singapore would be one example. China would be another example, but it's because they have very strict and specific cultures and ideologies that go in there and just sort of like squeeze people, and it's really oppressive, like to do that to a population. And a country like Serbia and Thailand, I feel that there's too much of a history of like varied influences and too much of a history of like take it easy and like foreign influences and resisting them and stuff like that. In those types of countries, I can speak for Serbia more because I've been there longer and I speak Serbian, and they speak more English as well. It's a deep mentality. Like you can read the book Chuti Serbi, means Listen Serbs by Archibald Rice, which was published in 1914. And it's like you're reading it today. The mentality of the people, their work ethic and stuff like that. You can't turn around like poverty instantly. But the influx of cash for digital nomads and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, if you want the government to solve the problem, the actual thing might be to tax digital nomads, you know, for being in your country. Might be to find some way to have like some of that money being funneled into housing projects or education projects and stuff like that for the locals to find out essentially what they have to do to be working part of this new sort of economy economy that involves foreigners with lots of cash swooping in and being a part of their society. I mean, I don't know the answer
Yeah.
to this, but I think government is not the best way to deal with it. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, there's a trickle-down effect that comes from people spending money in your community if you make products and services that are sort of like palatable to them, as you see lots of businesses in these places starting to do. But that doesn't really help. That helps the entrepreneurial class and whoever they hire, but it doesn't really help the normal man on the street who's living a normal life within their own normal culture better their lives, because you don't get that trickle down because foreigners are in a bubble. You have to get in that foreigner bubble if you want to extract income for it from it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, viewers out there, what do you think of this video? What do you think of the issue of people like me moving into places, driving rent prices up, and all that sort of stuff? Digital nomads, the destruction of culture. Tell us in the comments below, because this is a very open sort of issue that's even more pertinent this year now that COVID is pretty much over. And remote working has become the norm. Everything's still changing. It's very fluid, folks. But in my two favorite places on this planet, there are housing crisis and rents have like tripled. So I just wanted to talk about this, open this conversation, and Tal, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, subscribe to Rising Nomad if you like our channel. We'll catch you later.